rise. Jane is sat at her desk, writing in a book. There's a knock at the door. Alice enters.
Alice Carroll?
Hi. Yes?
Hello, Alice. Please have a seat. I'm Jane, and I'll be your career advisor today. What can we help you with?
We?
The advisory service. Now, what can I do for you?
I'd like a job, please.
Yes. Well, this is the career advisory service.
I'd like a job better suited to my personality.
What's your current position?
Coffee barista.
And why doesn't this suit you?
Coffee makes me jittery.
Can't you just drink decaf?
No, it's not the caffeine that makes me jittery. The coffee grinder, it's very loud, and the milk frother, it screams at me. I find it uncomfortable.
If a loud, pressured work environment is not suitable to you, then why did you take the job?
I needed it.
So you don't need a job now?
I do. I just need a better one.
I see. Shall we start the interview process?
Are you asking me?
What is your biggest weakness?
Really? That's your first question?
Are you insecure about being perceived as vulnerable?
Is that second question? Because I haven't answered
Please,
the first.
Alice, let's not waste any more time.
Do you want the truth?
What sort of question is that?
Well, do you want the truth, or do you want a carefully constructed response that has been prepared in anticipation that this very question would be asked?
Do you have a prepared response?
No.
Then I suppose the truth will have to do.
I'm a highly anxious, socially awkward individual that hates a lot of loud noise.
I see. And how do you cope with that?
Medication.
What medication do you take?
You know, the one they give you for anxiety. What's it called
I
now?
wouldn't know.
It starts with a D. D. Delirious, damaged, dialectic, diametric, diazepam. I take diazepam.
Does this affect your ability to perform in the
No,
workplace?
I'm female.
Pardon?
Well, it only causes erectile dysfunction in men.
That's not what I meant when I
You should be
asked.
more specific.
Why?
Well, if the workplace was a pornographic film studio and I was a man, then potentially yes.
What about a work environment where you are the same gender you are now?
Could you assign me a new gender?
I feel as though you're missing the point of this question.
I've always wondered what it would be like to be a man. I reckon a dick would be fun, especially the sense of entitlement and salary that goes with it.
Perhaps we should move on to the next question.
If you insist.
Can I simply ask, what job would you like to do?
I don't know. What's your job like?
My job?
Your job. Do you enjoy it?
I'm not entirely sure it's about
Or is
enjoyment.
it always your lifelong dream to sit at a desk and ask people a set list of questions that are designed to somehow make a semi-accurate profile to send to potential employees to hire the lost souls that come wandering in?
Next question. What are your hobbies, your interests? What do you like to do in your free time?
Mixed martial arts, reading, and whiskey tea parties.
Whiskey tea parties?
Drinking a large sum of Jack Daniels out of delicate china tea sets with friends. Or alone.
Why out of tea sets?
I like to feel like a lady.
Do you have a drinking problem?
No, I'd say I'm quite good at it.
Moving on. Why martial arts?
Have you ever been in a situation where you're hurting, not physically, but emotionally? Nothing is specifically wrong with you. No one has hurt you. Nothing essentially bad has happened, but you can feel the strain, the tension of life squeezing you tight. And you just want to let it out. You want to take a person by the throat and squeeze the light out of their eyes, just to feel in control again.
No, I've never felt that way.
Yeah, me neither. But martial arts is a good stress relief. Just do what I'm told, and I don't have to follow the usual protocol of social etiquette.
I see. So, would you say you have good leadership or social skills?
I don't think you've been listening all that closely.
Alice, I want to help you find a job, but I feel like you're not taking these questions seriously.
I feel like you're not taking my answers seriously.
Have you been in an interview situation before?
Yes, but they let me off with warning.
Alice climbs onto the desk and sits cross-legged in front of Jane.
Why are you shaking?
I'm not.
I can see you're shaking.
You're on my desk.
Yes, I am. Would you like a pot of tea?
Would I like a pot of tea?
Would you like a pot of tea?
I'd like a pot of tea.
Alice stands up on the desk, jumps off and walks over to a cabinet. She gets out a saucepan with a lid and a box of tea leaves. She empties the entire box of tea leaves into the saucepan, puts the lid on and carefully carries it over to Jane's desk and sets it down. Alice then returns to her seat across the desk from Jane.
Next question.
Next question.
What is it?
Jane lifts the lid of the pot again and takes a handful of tea leaves before dropping them back into the pot and recovering with the lid. She then retrieves a proper china teapot from her desk drawer and places it on the desk. She removes the lid of the teapot and removes the lid of the saucepan, whilst continuing with the dialogue, proceeds to carefully transfer the tea from the saucepan to the teapot, leaf by leaf.
Give an example of a time that you handled a major crisis.
That's not a question.
You know what I mean?
Do I?
I don't know.
Would you like to rephrase?
No.
Would you like to hear about the time I handled a major crisis?
Yes.
Many years ago, I took up board in this small space. It wasn't much, but it was warm. Felt like home. I had everything I needed. Then one day, without warning, the walls started to change shape. They closed in on me, tighter and tighter. I wasn't sure if the room was getting smaller or if I was getting bigger. A hole in the floor began to open. I had a decision to make. Do I stay in the only residency I've ever known, or do I let myself fall into the darkness? I closed my eyes and let go. I fell down the rabbit hole, until I saw a glimmer of light, gradually growing a bit brighter. My salvation! But just then, a rope caught me, tight round my neck. I struggled, tried to breathe, but to no avail. Then, out of nowhere, this beautiful white glove hand carefully slipped the rope off my neck and pulled me out of the unstable environment I once called home. I knew from then on I'd be okay, that I had the courage to move on into the unknown, to trust my instincts, and to have faith that when I falter, someone will be there to help me. 26 years later, here I am. I've never looked back.
I'm not entirely sure what to make of that.
I'm not entirely sure what to make of you.
Did you just tell me the story of your birth? What other way could I interpret
It's your mind. You choose the way you think.
Jane writes down notes in her book.
I see.
You see what? What are you writing? That's not what I said at all.
That's how I interpreted it.
Jane busies herself with transferring the tea leaves into the teapot.
What do you want?
Pardon?
What do you want?
Right now,
If you'd like,
I'd like a pot of tea.
you have a pot of tea.
This is not a pot of tea.
It looks like a pot of tea.
It is a pot. There is tea in it. It is not a pot of tea.
What do you want?
A pot of tea.
What do you want?
To finish this interview,
What do you want?
I'd like this interview to end.
What do you want?
I'd like 2 tablespoons of Earl Grey tea leaves placed inside a teapot, add boiling water. I'd like to let it steep for 4 minutes before pouring the hot liquid into a teapot, into a teacup with milk and 1 cube of demerara sugar.
Jane throws the teapot onto the ground in frustration, smashing it.
Well, if it wasn't broken before, it is now.
What do you want?
I'd like a glass of whiskey, please.
Alice reaches under the desk and pulls out 2 teacups and a bottle of whiskey. She places the teacups on the table and proceeds to pour the whiskey into the cups.
That's what I thought.
Alice hands Jane a cup of whiskey. They toast and drink. Alice slams her hands down on the table and screams,
Change places!
Jane and Alice stand up and run around the desk as though chasing each other 2 times and then sit down in one another's seat.
What job would you like to do?
I think I'd like to be a marine biologist.
What?
Well,
Go on.
I watched the saddest clip on YouTube.
It wasn't salad fingers, was it?
I said sad, not creepy.
Salad fingers is sort of sad.
Not the kind of sad I'm talking about.
It's heartbreaking, really, when you think about it.
Salad fingers.
Yes.
Why?
Well, he's just this mentally deranged zombie that's lost his mind and lives all alone.
He's a cartoon.
Yeah. But it's still sad.
That's not what I was watching on YouTube.
What were you doing on YouTube? Weren't you supposed to be working?
Well, this was kind of part of work.
Was it?
Yes. And no.
How can it be both?
Because it was relevant to what I was researching.
What were you researching?
That's not relevant to the story.
How can it not be relevant?
My reason for watching doesn't make it any less sad.
Have you ever gone to the dark end of YouTube? You know, the really dodgy end.
Yes. But that's not what I'm talking about.
I'm not talking about the gross stuff like maggots under the skin. I'm talking about the really messed up stuff.
I watched a video about a whale.
You know, like those slideshows of post-mortem family portraits.
This whale was always alone in the vast ocean.
Because, you know, photographs were rare back in the day, so sometimes the only time a family
He
had
was never able to connect with any others of his kind.
photographs taken.
He sings on a different sound frequency to any other known whale.
Yeah, so they used to prop them up and try and make them seem like they
He
were
swims
alive.
through the ocean searching for a partner. Anyone like him.
Even open their eyes, but you can see in the photograph.
But they can't hear his call.
That they're dead. It's that look in their eyes.
Imagine living your life on a completely different frequency to everyone else.
There's nothing there.
Never being heard.
Just an empty fog.
Destined to be alone no matter how long
Just-
and loud you called out.
Just dead.
It really makes you think.
How brief life is.
How you can be in an ocean full of life.
The importance of capturing a moment in
I
time.
wonder how those scientists must feel.
Even if the person is already dead.
Tracking that lonely creature.
They need to have a visual reminder.
Most male whales sing at a level between 17 to 18 hertz, but this whale communicates at 52
That
hertz.
the person existed. That they really mattered.
So the other whales can't hear him, but we can.
Just in case the memories fade.
We're humans, kings of communication.
But it's just a picture
There must be a way we can learn to speak back.
of a lifeless body.
Although, even if we could, what would we say?
What do we remember about our friends when we lose them?
Hey, whale.
It's their face we need to remember.
We just found out that you can't speak to anyone else your kind.
Not the stories they told.
They can't hear you.
That's the challenge.
Which means you'll probably never find a mate.
Doesn't matter who you are or what you have to say.
And you die alone.
It's what you learn about that.
You're unable to fulfill your basic instinct of procreation, and no one can ever hear you cry about
Even
it.
when you're dead.
I wish I could reach into the ocean's depth and let that whale know he isn't alone. Ironic, isn't it?
You hope to make a difference.
You hope to make a connection.
Sometimes
life just doesn't pan out that way.
Every day we have the opportunity to stand
To
out.
reach out
Make yourself memorable.
and listen to what people have to say.
But we forget what's important.
The rush of life gets in the way.
And we just have to get on with our lives.
I could have cried for that whale.
What whale?
For what I was just talking
You want to learn
about.
how to speak whale?
That's not what I just said.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming today. I've got plenty of material here to work with. I'm sure we'll find a position that's just right for you. We'll be in touch.
Oui?
As in the royal, oui.
I see, thank you.
Alice sits back down and writes in a book on the desk. There's a knock at the door.
Come in. Alice Carroll.
Hi, yes.
Hello, Alice. Please have a seat. I'm Jane. I'll be your career advisor today. What can we help you with?
Oui?
The advisory service. Now, what can we do for you?
I'd like a job, please.
Yes, well, this is the career advisory service.